One thing I think that the average citizen may not understand about this office is just how much by volume we do here. And that's something I wanted to show. Also, while some of our violent crime is down, I was pleased to see that the number of murders was considerably down in the city of Wichita this last year. That does not mean that our office isn't just as busy as we've ever been. Our criminal case filings are actually up by about 400 cases over last year, and we did the check, and nearly every one of those 400 extra cases are going to be felonies. These aren't just fairly minor misdemeanors, but these are serious felonies that have taken place. In the next schematic here, you see that the differences in juvenile offender cases. We have a significant increase in the number of juvenile offender cases that we've had to file. In our SINC cases, and that's Child Needed Care, CINC, the number of cases has gone up. It's a little hard to show it's only 50 cases more. It looks a little more dramatic on the grid here, but again, more cases. Probate filings, and I think people probably would be shocked to know that my office handles a pretty robust probate docket. And what does that mean? That's the care and treatment cases. Those are the involuntary commitment on mental petitions, the people who are a danger to themselves or others by virtue of a mental issue that they may suffer. We filed an all-time record this year, 831 cases, and that's something that our office just has to take care of. Our traffic cases pretty consistent over the last several years, not a major increase, but we have filed a few more than we did last year. It looks like about somewhere in the neighborhood of about 50 more. But what's important to know there is there's 23,359 traffic cases. So, long story short, when you add up everything this office does in the neighborhood of 55 days a week across 52 weeks, that's about 250 working days a year. We handle somewhere north of 34 to 35,000 cases between the major divisions within the office. It's just a lot of work that this office handles. One other point I think that I wanted to get to here as well, appeals. People don't think about the appellate division that we have. The Carr Brothers appeal obviously got on people's radar, and they recognize what we were doing, and I'm glad that our office is defending that case in our appellate courts. But I had several people say, so how many people get appeals? Well, the answer is everybody who's convicted of a crime has a right to appeal absent certain circumstances. Our office responded to 548 appeals last year, and in some of them were just written responses, but also 59 separate times our attorneys in our appellate division had to go to the Court of Appeals or the Supreme Court. Now sometimes the Court of Appeals comes down here, but 59 separate times our attorneys stood up and made oral arguments before the appellate courts of the state. So my point is it's a lot of work for an appellate division as well. One of the main goals I had for this first year was to try to get the size of the criminal dockets, the jury trial docket, under control. I know those of you who've been to some of these press conferences, media briefings, have heard me say that the size of our dockets, the number of cases on the jury trial docket, was something that concerned me. The month before I was elected in July of 2012 then, the size of the jury trial docket was roughly 1,246 cases. That's how many cases were pending set for jury trial. This last, I believe it was the beginning of December, the number was under 860. In addition, as I said to start off with, we filed 400 more cases this year than we did last year. So while still filing 400 more felony cases, we processed the jury trial docket down from 1,246 to under 900. So it's a turnaround, depending on how you look at it, of somewhere in the neighborhood of 600 to 700 cases got processed faster this year and off that docket than they had the previous year. And the things I think that are attributable to, or that had contributed to that increase are several in nature. I can't take full credit for it in this office. We worked, though, in concert with the judges. Judge Wilbert, who's been the criminal assignment judge, has taken several steps to trying to get the docket size under control. In addition, you've heard me talk about this IAD docket, initial assessment docket, this thing I put into, began when I took over, where we have low-level cases, nonviolent crimes for first-time offenders, go into a docket right off the bat as soon as they're charged, and we have an attorney who does nothing but process those cases. And the idea is to get in touch with those cases, look at them immediately upon filing, find out what the restitution amount is, and make an initial offer right off the bat. Process them, triage those cases the day they're filed. Get that information to the defense attorney and say, you have basically, this is the best offer you're going to get. And that docket, that IAD docket, which did not exist prior to me taking over, has processed over 350 cases. Additionally, by creating an economic crime unit that didn't exist specifically before I took over and putting somebody in charge of that, Robert Short, those of you, some of you may remember him when he was Randy Short over at the Eagle. But Robert's been in office now for a long time, and he has been put in charge of the economic crime unit. His group by itself, because we have 4 attorneys devoted solely to economic crime, not property crimes, the forgeries, the burglaries, the identity theft, the deceptive business practices, those kinds of crimes, it gets just more attention than it did before. And his group has been able to process roughly 160 cases at or before the preliminary hearing stage. So when you add it all up, that's somewhere in the neighborhood of roughly 500 cases, maybe a little bit less when you get into the nuances of it. But somewhere between 400 and 500 cases have been processed in those earliest weeks of filing. And I think that has made a profound effect on the manner in which cases are handled. And again, I want to stress that this doesn't mean we're giving fire sales. We're only counting cases, felonies that plead to a felony, felonies that either plead as charged or to another felony. Not cases that have to be dismissed, not cases that have to be knocked down to a misdemeanor. That's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about, in that 160 in Robert's group, felonies pleading to felonies. So I want people to know it's not just rapidity isn't the only goal here. We're trying to get justice and make sure that an adequate charge is the result. One thing that we did this year that we kind of dipped our toe into it a little bit, our investigative section. We have investigators that work in the office, and we have not done a lot of this in the past, but this year, just in the last month or so, consumers were calling in. We had somebody who was going out and putting up a deck for people. Call them up, they'll price you a deck. Give them $1,000, he'll go buy the material, come back and put your deck on. Well, he had done that several times, this individual, and not ever done the work. Hard to catch somebody in that sort of situation when it's just a number. Law enforcement's busy, traditional law enforcement, Wichita Police Department, Sheriff's Department, so we have a staff of investigators here. So we made a call, and we met the guy at a building, and he came and gave us an estimate, and when it was all done and said, he was arrested on the spot, basically an undercover sting, delivered out of my office. Now, are we going to go do that every day? No. But we tried it once, and it worked with great effect. The man now stands charged and awaiting trial on theft charges based on this. There are things this office can do to be more of a presence in the community and let people know that we're doing more than just sitting back waiting on people to get murdered and then respond. There's a significant role when it comes to fighting violent crime. Our gang unit, our sex crimes unit, the attorneys who handle murders do yeoman's work. It has historically been and will always be the emphasis of the office. People expect the district attorney's office to go out and put murderers and rapists and child molesters and people like that, hold them accountable, and that will never change. But my point is there are other things we can do, and I want citizens to know that.